start with the process. We start with the character concept.
Right.
So lead us through the table here, of how we get something done.
Well, it sort of starts with what character we need for like the first iteration of what we're going to release, which is the hangar. So right now it's concentrating on the main character for the hangar. So we have a concept artist sort of designing some things. Once that is approved through Chris and myself, then it goes to Mark to actually build it out using ZBrush and various tools.
So usually what I do then is I will take the concept and just kind of do a rough block in, make sure that the size and the silhouette is correct. Something quick so I can usually show Chris Roberts and make sure that I'm on the right track. Because, obviously from a concept to a 3D sculpt, there's always some issues that come up. Like for some of the stuff, I had to like reduce the chest plate a little bit so he had a little more mobility, in the arms, which I talked to Brian about, beforehand to make sure that everything is, that what I'm guessing at is true. And like the way that the shoulder pads like fold in on each other is correct. It's more real world. It always happens in concepts where if you do it straight to the concept, it reduces mobility so much that when you put it in the game, it doesn't look right. So usually you have to either size things down or redesign them a little bit so that they work in real world.
So there's a lot of testing back and forth between what he's designing or building and Brian as far as like what's capable of like movement and stuff.
So how do you do that part, Brian? Is that motion capture?
Okay, so the kind of the full process. There are a lot of technical requirements to making sure a character works in game, and one of them is to make sure that the character Mark is building is fitting our skeleton. We have a skeleton that we went back and forth on with the character, our base character, which we've already seen released, and kind of figured out where all our joint placement needs to be. From now on, any character artist who builds a mill for our game now has to fit this in particular template. And there is a lot of back and forth between Mark and myself. And, will this in particular piece of armor work? Will this spacesuit work? How do these tubes that are running along the spacesuit need to be built properly to animate properly? So there's a lot of thought process that goes into technically making these in particular spacesuits work. We can't get away with things in video games that we can get away with in movies. Sometimes you can fake something to make that shot look proper. Video games, it has to look good all the time. So once I have the character and he's skinned up and he's looking good and everything's been approved, the next step is to take a set of animations given to me, usually by design. They'll say, hey, we need these in particular animations. I then look at those animations and determine, is this an animation that should be hand-keyed, where I go in there by hand and hand-key whatever it happens to be? Or is this something that we can capture quickly and easily with motion capture? If it's motion capture, then we go out and we shoot it and edit it, put it on our character, make sure that, again, there's animation is probably one of the more technical sides of art development for a game.
And then how much of that interacts with Chris? So obviously if you have your character, he's got to fit inside the cockpit, correct? I mean, all of that has to be... That
is actually something I'm really, really happy about on this game. And I love the fact that being on the ground floor of this game, we were able to do something that I actually haven't been able to do in a game ever, and which is I made a little proxy character with a little blocked out cockpit to figure out, here's the different kind of control schemes, here's where all the panels can be that a character can actually reach. I then made a little proxy file and I handed it off to Chris, and he's able to pop that right in, move it around wherever he wants in his scene, and line up all of his controls.
Yeah.
Now this doesn't take into effect that there's like alien races that are going to have completely different sets of like animations and ships.
Once we get an alien species like the Vandul, who's much taller than a human, do the same thing. We'll get him in. We'll get him in the proper positions, and I'll hand that off and let the whoever's modeling the ship pop that in and customize their cockpit to fit the character, as opposed to having the character fit the cockpit. I can't tell you how many games I've worked on where I'm handed a model and the character's feet go through the floorboard of the Jeep or or whatever it happens to be, and then there's a lot of back and forth.
It's going to be interesting because the idea is eventually we're going to be able to like have a human be able to fly like a Van Duel type ship. So there's going to be a big thought process as far as like customization and because of the size difference between the Van Duel and the human, you know, how you need to retrofit that ship to be able to fly it. So.
He's probably going to put wooden blocks on his feet.
Wooden blocks on his feet, right.
Like he's stealing his daddy's car.
Booster seat.
Right? Is that what's going to happen?
Little lever to push the seat forward.
Yeah. Or maybe there's two humans in it, and one works the levers on the bottom,
the kid
and the
in
other.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, the kid in Indiana
Shark
Jones. Yeah.
So then we've got the character, and then where do we go?
Well, for me, like my interaction with the ship and Brian is I pretty much model it out. I do some test animations, and then once it's to the point, we go back and forth to make sure everything works right. And then also for our ships, we also have another unique thing. We have a thing called hard points, which are interchangeable gadgets and equipment. So it'll be like weapons you can interchange or engines and stuff like that. On top of once I'm done with the ship, I have to go back. I basically go back and model those extra hard points, model and design them. So that's another extra step.
And then the ship needs something to land on.
Of course.
And?
So we built this landing pad. It's almost like a small level. Various small details for nernies and lighting and basically matching the scale of 300i. So that was
Hey Jeff, what's a nerny?
Okay.
What is an earning?
A small decorative detail that just helps bring a higher definition to the look of your model.
And then finally, hangar
Mm-hmm.
is where we got to put all the ships.
Yes. What would you like to know?
So how many ships can go in the deluxe hangar?
In the deluxe hangar, right now it's somewhere between 10 and 20, not entirely sure, because there's various classes of ships that go in there, everything from Constellation down to the Aurora, I guess. So whenever I get these specifications, I have to take that into account and say, all right, they have this much money going into this hangar, so it would be this big, and then here are these different set pieces that can be tiled and put into there. So on my end, for concept, I'm usually a very technical concept artist. A lot of very clear drafting, which I reference from my experience in the military doing the same thing, reading and writing blueprints and drawing up designs for structural materials when we would build stuff.
Okay. And then decorations for the hangar. That's not you as well, right?
That is me.
Oh, that's you too. Cool. So then I have to go to the programmers to work out how the rest of it works. You guys make it
How it all
all.
comes
You guys
together.
all make it look good,
Yeah.
and then it'll work out.
We don't do no programming.
We eliminated programming.
Sorry, ain't us.
We
All
don't have
right.
any
We just
programmers.
make things purty.
Do we have programmers?
I think we do.
Thanks, everybody. So this is how the artists do their work, and how the ships look, and the characters look, and the hangar's going to look, and the landing pad. And then later on, we're going to have how the programmers actually make things happen in the engine.